Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. We are going to spend this morning, or if you're watching this on somebody sent you the YouTube, this next 45 minutes talking about the single most important thing for your future with Partner Co. and for your future financially, unless you've already found your meal ticket. And if you're already wealthy and you already have plenty of time freedom and you already have the choices in life you want, then you're welcome to tune me out. This is probably not going to be for you. This is for the other 95% of us that aren't exactly in life where we want to be. And really, I want to try because I deal with this so much, and that is people getting distracted, people coming and going, or people going and not coming back, or people disappearing and feeling embarrassed, people's paychecks coming up, coming down, and them getting distracted. There's just a million things that when you have this little $30 business that can throw you completely off for a lifetime. And and I always say just because you quit doesn't mean you ever got what you wanted. It just means you quit your journey. It got too hard, it got too difficult, it got too distracted, and you can always blame other people. You can always blame the business. You can always blame a million things, but it's just always remember it's your future. It's nobody else's. So you're not ever quitting on whatever got you distracted. You're quitting on your future. Okay. So that being said, it is called the why. Like, why did I pay that $30 and add something else to my life when my life was already really busy? And we're going to use a number of people this morning to talk this through. I've got a small little 20-page PowerPoint built. We're going to go through it. But as I'm sharing my screen, and we want to keep this really tight and clean, but I'm going to call on just four or five people because I think they're all here for different reasons. But Reese, would you mind? Why did you like we all joined Partner Co because somebody came to us unexpectedly. We didn't really want to do it. We joined to lose weight or make some extra income, and then all of a sudden we found ourselves pretty serious at this. But then all hell seems to break loose, and life comes at us from a million different directions and tries to throw us off. So, Reese, talk to us a bit about why you're here and maybe some of the things that have entered your life the last 24 months that have tried to throw you off.
A lot is try to throw. Anytime you do something good, something, you know, good for your family, something good that's going to bring your family closer, bring you closer to God, and create make you better. Um, the evil out there is going to come into your life. The things that are gonna, and I'm very spiritual, so I very much believe that those things are going to try to stop you. But for me, like I had no intentions on doing this business. In fact, I was totally against it. You know, most everybody on this call would know that. But as it came in, what got me into it was my wife bought me a guitar, and I realized, okay, well, maybe there is a little bit of money to be made here. And I thought maybe it was a little bit of money to kind of bridge a gap that we were kind of missing. And maybe it's not long term or anything like that. I really didn't know. But as I started to learn about it, being analytical like I am, as I started learning about it, trying to poke holes in it every which way, trying to discourage my wife from doing it, everything else, I quickly learned, that this is life changing, that the way I had been taught to live life, the way that it had been put into me from school. I mean, go to college, go to high school, make good grades, and I'm not knocking college. I went to college and I'm glad I did, but there's so many. Go to college, get in debt while you're in college, then get out of school and have to pay off debt. And then maybe you might start making money, but you're going to work for time. You're going to trade time the rest of your life. And that is just what everybody thinks life is, but that's not what life is. That's not the purpose of life. That is a man-made concept in that side of things, trading that time for money. Um, and there's nothing, I'm not knocking people that are doing that either. I mean, because there's all these jobs have to be filled. But what I'm saying is there is a different way to be free. And that's what I saw. And that's what I have to remind myself too, Todd. Between the fire, things, we lost our house in a fire. We have 5 kids, every one of them has different issues. They're all over the place. We're always going each way. I was working 65, 70 hours a week. And then even right now, things that are entering in my life that I have been distracted, that have distracted me. So I have to remind myself, hey, this is the life. This is the way you're supposed to live life. This is the time freedom. This is why you started it. So that's why it's important to have like your why or your whatever it is, your why posted so that you're reminded. So it's not easy just to throw away. Like you said, you get distracted or you give up because it got too hard, or you give up because life happens, you can always restart. I think it was Chris Doyle that said, I probably gave up more times than anybody else, but I just chose to restart more times than anybody else because we're going to hit those things. But this has changed our lives, our families' lives, to the point that I don't have to be stuck in an office. I'm in Georgia right now at my daughter's house enjoying Thanksgiving. So, I mean, things that I wouldn't have been able to do just a year or so ago.
And a lot of people frown on our industry initially until they learn what we do. We're beneath them. They're XYZ in the marketplace. I always say everybody that works in corporate America is the vice president of something. I don't mean that as a slight, but they live by their title, and then we get this business that can compound efforts and build residual income, and then all of a sudden we're in this little bitty thing. We're working from home that they would never touch. And Cindy Farley, you're one of those people. You didn't look down on our industry, but you were definitely highly successful outside of the network marketing industry. You're one of the top real estate brokers in all of the state of Ohio. You own multiple companies, and you built this nice little residual income from home in the midst of it all.
I did. And actually, really, I was one of those people who now I grew up lower middle class. I mucked barns, baled hay, milked cows. I grew up in a very, very tiny rural area in Ohio. And so it wasn't that things were beneath me financially. It's that once you worked your tail off to be someone special right in your mind, you're on billboards, TV, I sat on boards, I was on the radio, all these things. When somebody would bring me this industry, I just thought it was something that wasn't serious because I ran in a very high circle. I had built from the ground up a very successful business that was I paid out $9 million a year in commissions to people that worked for me. So for me, why would I want one of these little home-based businesses for a few $100s? I don't have time for that. I'm busy. I have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of debt from owning businesses and a lot of overhead. And so I think it really, for me, what happened is that life gave me a swift kick in the pants, is what happened. A nice dose of reality, if you will, during the 2007 to 2011 housing crisis. There was nothing I could do. It didn't matter how hard I worked. As a matter of fact, we were still, people have heard me say this, my offices were still number one in our county. And we still had 8 of the top 10 realtors that worked at my office. It didn't stop my offices from losing on average 10,000 a month, and I had 4 of them. So you can only sustain that no matter how much money you put in savings so long. And it was this industry and in the previous company I was in where I met Todd, that bridged that gap to allow me to survive that and then sell my businesses, those offices later. And I sold them because of that reality. If there are any realtors on here, I apologize for what I'm about to say. I did it for a long time. I even taught realtors for 5 years. I taught real estate at the Ohio State North Campus for 5 years. So I loved real estate. I loved people in general, but 80% of the realtors, they're arrogant. They think they're better than they are, and they some of them would push their own family member down a flight of stairs to sell a house. I mean, they're ruthless, right? And then you come in this arena and you say, wait a minute, these people are actually really nice. Yeah, we get a few bad apples here and there, but for the most part, you guys know, you're on this call right now. This is a kind, sincerely kind, with like-minded, nice people. But more so than that, it's a bigger business, but I needed that swift kick of reality to see it, to open my eyes. And not everybody will, because timing won't be right. But then life still gets in the way, because guess what? It doesn't matter what level you run at. One thing I know from the time I guess I was a teenager on is that life will throw you a curveball every so many years. It doesn't matter where you're at, so you better be prepped for it. And so I will never not own this type of business, and this is my retirement business. This is my legacy business. Everything else you sell. This is a legacy business, and I know there's some people in here who know that. So that's my story, Todd.
And we'll hear just a couple from Canada. Mary comes to us from the oil and gas industry. Carmen raised her kids in the industry, and Shorty's a horse dentist. But why don't you three, if you don't mind, why are y'all here? Like, what drives you? Mary, one thing I respect about Mary is that she shows up every single morning, just like she's still clocking in at the oil and gas office.
Yeah, I was in the oil and gas industry, and honestly, I joined for the discount. I didn't plan on doing this business. In fact, I told Christy, no, I'm not doing the business. Um, it changed for me once she showed me the system and that it was truly possible to build a business here. And then my why changed even more. And a lot of people don't know this, but when I was in the oil and gas industry, I had to leave because there was some sexual harassment going on there. So it was imperative that this business worked.
So, here's what I know is that if somebody sticks with this over the course of a couple years, there's something driving them. It's the desire for better is stronger than the desire to get off the train on a bad day, because I promise you bad days are coming. Lots of them. If you aren't having a bad day in our company right now, give it a day. If something will go wrong, I promise. We're in real business dealing with people, and it's not easy. Carmen?
Hello. Yes, I have been in this industry for 20 years. And I actually also, like Mary, came from the oil and gas industry. And when I was in that industry, we made a lot of money. Like I'm talking $15 million a month. And then I broke away from my ex-husband and went on my own. And what I didn't know was that he would go into competition with me, with my own business. So I'm just talking about when I first came into this industry, my cousin Jana called me up to get me into a previous company. And her words to me, and she didn't know what was going on in my life. It was a lot. There was a lot going on. I was fighting for my life. And Jana calls me up and she said, Carmen, this was back in 2006, I believe. She's like, I found a way for us to be laying on the beach and retired, and I want you with me and all this stuff. And I mean, she was my younger cousin, and I was kind of like, oh, like I laughed at her. Actually, I was like, oh, I bet you did. So anyway, I ended up joining that business, and I spent about $400 on some skincare. And then that night, I actually was online, seeing what I purchased, and about 3 in the morning, I put an order in for about $7,000 because I thought, you know what? This is real. And the reason why is because I read a testimony. I just read some single mom had a son with eczema, and the eczema cleared up. And so that brought me into this industry. It gave me hope. It showed me that yes, there's something I can do and I can stay home with my children. So I mean, this industry really does. I mean, it's you can't do this anywhere else. You can't just go out and build a business for $30. When I had my oil and gas industry, my own company, my overhead was beyond. Yes, I made lots of money, but I mean, we had employees, we had all kinds of stress. I mean, stresses that we don't have here. So yeah, no, this industry really, truly is where it's at. We can't do this anywhere else.
And Shorty is a $400 an hour guy fixing horses' teeth. And Shorty, I guess at some point in life, you get tired of being in a horse's mouth.
Well, that's one of the main reasons because I am tired and week.
Shorty, I'm going to stop your video real quick because we can't hear you. Go ahead. Once the video stopped, go ahead and stop.
Okay, sorry.
All right,
Yeah, I'm actually on my way to the barn here right now, but that's the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm tired. I've been working 6 and 7 days a week since I got back from Texas, and it's trading time for money. If I'm not standing in front of a horse, I'm not getting paid. So I understand leverage. I've understood leverage for a long time. I've been in and out of the industry since the early 90s, and I've seen a lot of things come and go, but by far and wide, this is the best overall program I have ever seen. This company is bending over backwards to help us make money. And, I've been busy. I've been unplugged a bit and stuff. I'll admit that, but pick up where I left off. And Black Friday is going to be the catalyst to kick off for the new year. And we're going into momentum, and we're going to hit $1 billion in the next couple of years, I believe. And we're on the ground floor, so the people that are taking the action and putting the effort in are the ones that are going to win the most. So thanks, Todd. Back to you.
Yeah, so Shorty just says something that's extremely important, and you want to think about this for yourself if you're this person, but if you're not this person, you want to think about this for people on your team. Especially in the beginning, it's very easy to get distracted and unplugged. And you do that for just a couple of weeks, and then you don't feel like you know what's going on. You don't feel the energy. And this happens to people at all levels. So you would be amazed if you're that person, how quickly, if you just plug back in. That's one of the greatest things about the IPA calls. You can just plug into the energy and get right back up to date. And then if you've got a team of people, like not a text, but a phone call and a conversation to people on your team that you think aren't doing anything. I was actually just thinking about it because Reese and I both have, they're not all in Reese's business, but they all entered at the same time. But there's a lot of people here in the panhandle of Florida that really are responsible for the entire skinny drop system that have kind of been unplugged the last 6 months. And I was just thinking that they all deserve a phone call from me this week, just telling them how much we appreciate them and telling them they're welcome to go back to work and we're here to help them. That goes a million miles. So if I was you and I wanted to build a big business and you do have people unplugged, I would make a list. That's exactly what I'm doing this week. But I want to go to just a couple more people because if you're watching this on video, a lot of times you think it's people like me, a broke football coach, that does this, but it's really people from every walk of life. Tom was a Navy pilot. He was the head instructor at the Navy Pilot School, just north of Pensacola, Florida. And Tom, I think maybe you're doing this, number one, because you don't want to sit home and stare at the walls now that you're retired, but number two, to build a better retirement. But we'd all love to know from you why you would do this.
That's a great question. I spent 50 years of my life doing something I absolutely loved, and helping young aviators learn the ropes and seeing them and knowing that you're having an impact way out into the future was really, really something I loved. I loved the camaraderie of being in the units that I was in, but this couldn't last forever. I knew it was going to end. And finding Partner Co was really something that I once again can be a part of something bigger than myself and make a difference in people's lives. That's what it's really all about. I think that you'll get the most satisfaction, or at least I do, have the most satisfaction in life of helping other people do better.
And then John Oakey ran. He was a sports guy on your local news station, and then he was your good morning person that woke you up every morning for 30 years. He was that guy in Omaha, Nebraska. So, in so many people's eyes, John, you were that guy with good hair. Everybody knew you. Like, why in the world would you do this?
Exactly. It's been almost 12 years since we stumbled upon this. We were not looking for this at all. We were kind of fluffy and we were looking to lose some weight and we just stumbled upon this. Actually, we're on a cruise ship when we found this. And again, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm like what Reese is talking about. Go to college, get your career, do that for 40 years, retire. My wife is more of an entrepreneur, business owner. And so she instantly saw that this could be a business and we could make some extra income. We had two biological boys, had just literally adopted 4 other children, all siblings, a month before we went on this cruise ship and found out about this company and the products like the skinny drops. And we were really just doing it for the health purposes. But then Christy saw that this could be a business. So, we toiled for about 8 years or so, just doing this part time while we both had our jobs. I finally, I saw the vision pretty quick of what life could be like as an entrepreneur, right? And doing this in the time freedom, because I was waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I did that for 21 years. And so finally decided 3 years ago to step away and do this full time. And it's been a game changer for us. And, we've had those that are really close to us know that we have every reason we could have stepped away. We have some difficult children. Okay. Example, last night, I'm doing getting ready to get on a Zoom with our team. And I've got a child that is losing her mind. And I'm like, if you can't calm down for 30 minutes, you're going to be on the Zoom with, everyone's going to hear you on the Zoom, just losing your mind, So stuff like that happens a lot, unfortunately for us. So we're dealing with a lot of stuff. So we've had every reason to quit. But but we understand what this business can do. One, the health products, right? They're outstanding. We both have transformations. If you haven't seen Christy's transformation, she's lost over 50 pounds. New woman, so much confidence, right? And then on the business side, I mean, I was making 6 figures a year in my TV job. I made that up in 8 months when I decided to go full time in this. So this is the way to do this. I'm at the gym, right? I can go to the gym when I want to. We can work from our phones. We can work from wherever we want to go. We earn the incentive trips. We were in the Dominican last year. We're going to Maui this year. So I just encourage you, if things are getting tough, it will get better. Just got to get over the humps of life. It's well worth it.
Yeah, so John, you hit probably the number one reason everybody should do this that's the least talked about, and that's time freedom. Like everybody's so used to having their whole life scheduled to make a living and pay their bills. Like they don't even understand that you could live life all day on your own terms, work out at 10 a.m., go for a jog at noon, run to the beach at 2, take off for 2 weeks and go on wherever you want to go in the world without having to ask somebody's permission. And Mike, we'll end with you just for this moment, and then we're going to share just a few slides. We may come back and get a few more, but Mike, you and Lisa, y'all were a $250,000 a year couple. You own at one point it's 10 different dry cleaners. So I think $250,000 is a pretty good living. I don't think you were chasing money. I think you were chasing the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, boy, we certainly didn't get that. That's the that's the one thing that we didn't realize. We thought it would last for a couple of years, while we worked those 15-hour days, but they never stopped. Even when we set up the stores to have people in place to do it, it was a baby that never grew up. It's always on your mind. Anytime we go out of town, that phone is ringing constantly, and just the burden of what's going on back at home. So this was very attractive, especially seeing the lifestyle that you and Ken and some others live. That's quite attractive.
Okay, so let me just share just a couple of things with you and just give you some ideals. And this Zoom is really, or YouTube video if you're watching, is really more for the person that's been distracted, that doesn't really know like how quickly life can change. This slide is a reminder to me how different 1 year can be in a business that has compounding efforts. But that gentleman there walked, and remember, we're going into Black Friday, so this week is going to be crazy good. But then, and it's not Thanksgiving in Canada this week, so it'll be pretty normal. But pretty soon, Christmas parties start happening, and no matter what we say, all of us get a bit distracted through Christmas, although you can have your best month ever in December. I remind everybody that Brent Palmer and I both joined this industry Christmas week. I saw this industry the first time when I went home to visit my parents when I was coaching high school football. I drove 5 hours home for the Christmas holidays, and my dad invited me out to a network marketing meeting. And Brent was the exact same thing. So don't think it's an excuse not to be great, but overall, December's challenging, and you got to know that. However, January is coming, and we all know in January there's two things that happen, and that is a New Year's resolution for better physicality, weight loss, energy, whatever that might be, and there is a New Year's resolution in almost everybody's life for better finances. And it's just the perfect time for our industry to explode. So literally, it was early February 2 years ago. That guy was bulldozing my land. Got to know him for 3 days, completely cold contact, but it was a direct approach. Signed him up in the business that led to Robin, that led to the whole Skinny Drop system. Robin still to this day makes upwards of $5,000 a week in the company. And Reese, safe to say, Robin worked the business for 90 days. It was about the amount of time she put into it.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Even if she really even worked the business, other than she sold drops for a while, and then you guys worked around her, and that's where it all took off.
Yeah, that was her first 16 months. She's approaching $500,000 with our company now, not to include all the retail. But I'll tell you the one thing that Robin did that was uniquely different than everybody else. Her intensity for that 4 or 5 months she did work was beyond the pale, whereas a lot of people just kind of stick their toe in. They're always distracted. They show up when they can. If you went and looked at Robin's social media for that 4 or 5 months, she was posting 25 times a day. She was returning messages. She was doing it on all platforms. She was doing lives, reels. Like her intensity was beyond the pale. So, like that's one thing that I encourage everybody to do is set yourself up for a high intensity campaign because it literally will allow you to do exactly what you see there on the screen. And that's go from not necessarily minimum wage. Everybody here is pretty successful already, but it will allow you to go from a minimum life to financial independence where you get to make decisions without finances or time being associated with that decision. Somebody asked me one time, what is financial independence? And I don't think you could ever put a dollar amount on financial independence because if you look out there at the Elon Musk of the world, he seems to work harder than any of us. And the guy's literally now projected to become a trillionaire. So like it's not the money. Here is financial independence. It's the ability to wake up every day and do what you want to instead of what you have to. Elon wants to go to work every day. He wants to make a difference in this world. Tom has enough retirement, as you just heard from Tom, to retire. He may not have enough to do anything he wants to do, but he wants purpose in life. He wants to wake up every day and do what he wants to do, and that's going to change the next person's life. So just understand that in this business, we go back to Shorty's why. Shorty makes $400 an hour. That's a pretty good living under most standards. However, it requires his time. It requires him to travel to a location. It requires him to have his tools, his truck. It requires his body to open the horse's mouth. And whenever he doesn't travel to that location or wants a day off, guess how much money Shorty makes on his days off? He makes zero money. I'll tell you when my eyes really opened to residual income is I was about 7 or 8 months into this industry. I was starting to make some decent money at it. And I signed up a ministry of music that led me to a dentist in town. His name was Ron Hill. This is in Fort Smith, Arkansas, when I was still part-time. Ron signed up and sent me to the orthodontist that he sent his patients to. His name was David Harper. And David signed up. David was one of the wealthiest guys in Fort Smith, Arkansas. He literally had a 15,000 square foot house. And at that time frame of my life, it was like a castle. I just couldn't even imagine. It was unbelievable. He only worked 4 days a week. But here's what he told me a couple of stories early on. Number one story he told me, he said, Todd, do you realize for me to go on vacation, it cost me $18,000 before I booked my hotel? And I said, I don't understand. He said, well, I forgot how many employees. It was like 15 ladies that worked for him there in the office, plus his rent, plus all that stuff. But he said, Todd, if I take off for a week, I still have to pay all my employees. He said, my overhead is 18,000 a week. That's before I buy the first meal or book my hotel room. He said, do you realize in a business like this, that it's all your income to keep? The only overhead you have is when you're actually physically working, meaning you're buying somebody's meal, you're putting gas in your car to go to a meeting. But if you're not working in this business, unless you want to count your little $200 auto ship, an overhead, there is zero overhead here. Maybe a $20 Zoom room, whatever it is, but it's just a couple $100 a month that you would have to look at as a true overhead that would run against you with you not working. So you're building compounding efforts and residual income. It's what makes our industry so different and so unique. I shared this with the group in Montreal that the only problem with ever really understanding compounding efforts and residual income is that if you ever get it, you will never be able to work a normal job again as long as you live. Like as much as people look at our industry as we're one of those things, I wake up every day and look how people live their life. And I'm like, you have got to be. Remember, I have not had a job since I was 31 years old. Do I work hard some days? You bet you I do. But it's always on my terms. Do I sacrifice? You bet you I do. But it's always on my terms. If my son wants me, and he did this past weekend, want me to come to his last football game, I just take off and go to his last football game. I don't have to ask anybody's permission. I don't have to take off work. I don't have to pay employees. I don't have to run an office. I don't have running overhead against it. Those are the things you want to build into your life. And the one thing that makes this business so uniquely different than traditional businesses compared to your home-based business model is, and Mike, if you don't mind, since you were just talking about it, but even when you hire employees, a lot of times you're still the first in and the last to leave.
Yeah, that is it. There's no denying that. Even if we have people here, it never leaves your mind. But as you can see, I'm sitting in the store right now. And that just has not changed. No matter what plans we have, what desires and dreams we have to put management in place, you never escape it. So here we are.
And then during COVID, when they made you guys shut things down, did you still have to pay rent and overhead?
Yeah, I've got a great story on that. I've got a one particular landlord that I called him at that time to see if there was something we could do because dry cleaning went to almost zero during COVID. But the landlord answered the phone and he said, "Hey, Mike, have I ever asked you to send me extra money when you were doing really good?" And I said, "No." He said, "Then don't start this conversation by asking to send less money during COVID." And that was exactly what he said. We somehow managed through that by the grace of God. But rent didn't stop. We had employees, we had rent, we had insurance. None of those things could we skip out on.
So, Mike, I want to ask you a question here because this is one thing I've taught for many years in our industry, is that the Achilles heel of the network marketing industry is it's $29.95 to start. And if you're going to start with a 30 pack of drops, about $2,800 outlay. So less than $3,000 all in is not going to make a single person in the world work. But if you start at dry cleaners and you take out a bank loan, is it your choice anymore whether to show up or not?
You're going to be there whether you feel miserable or not. And I always tell people, even the sign on the building costs more than $7,000. That's just a sign to put out there. So that's just a drop in the bucket. But at that point, what people don't realize is even the hundreds of thousands of dollars that it costs to build the business, we also sign sometimes a 10, 15, and a 20-year lease guaranteeing $1 million, $1.5 million. We don't make it work. They do come after you for that. So you're going to make it work somehow. That might mean being there at 5:30 and leaving at 11:30 at night, as we've done many, many times.
So I just mentioned, so we talked about startup cost and your time, but the monthly cost in our business, if you Zoom, I'm talking about fixed overhead. You obviously can have some extra expense if are going to drive somewhere, like that's all on us, but just our true fixed overhead. Let's just say that I probably have about $500 a month fixed overhead between very large Zoom rooms, different things I pay for. But what is your fixed overhead in per location, Mike?
In terms of
employees that
employees
you're paying, everything.
You figure typically on an average store, let's say a store that does maybe $500,000 a year, you're looking at about 30,000 a month is labor, all of your operating expenses, all of that stuff. So fixed cost is going to be probably around 20,000. So that happens whether you take in money or not. It's there whether you like it or not.
And then the next one there, like in our business, I always tell everybody, even the ones that make a lot of money quickly, that it takes 3 to 5 years. Reese, how long did I tell you it would take to build a business? And I think Reese is on the phone. I see him talking. But I generally tell everybody that wants to do this in a big way, like, don't even judge your business for the first 3 years. And it's going to be generally 5 to 7 years to build a walk away stable income for the rest of your life. Like if that's your goal here. So like it's not going to happen in a day. But when you start up a dry cleaners, what is your feasible time to profitability?
So it's right in that neighborhood that you mentioned. 5 years is pretty accurate. That's going to be on a decent store that comes up. You can take some draw money during that time, but by the time you get into the loans getting paid off and some of the debts getting done, you're looking at 5 years, 5 to 7 years. You're right on.
Oh, by the way, I spent 2 days with Sarah last week. Everybody knows she got her doctorate, but there was one thing I did not know. Her student loan is $250,000. So, like, she has spent $250,000 to get a degree before she ever gets to use it to make money the first time. That's mind-boggling. No degrees needed here. As we say, as Ken Bailey always says, you can be from Yale or jail. You can have college. You can have whatever you want, or you can have nothing. All are invited. Okay, let's talk about employees, Mike. There's no employees here. Talking a little bit about what are employees at a traditional business?
So with our employees, we have everybody that's typically salary. We may have a manager that's I'm sorry, a manager that's salary. Everybody else is hourly. And what we used to pay hourly for a few years ago has just doubled, in some cases tripled since then. But we run it as streamlined as we can, and we're at 25 to 30% of our gross income goes to salary.
And like, how many employees, percentage wise, turn out to be good employees on the hiring?
It is a revolving door. I can hear Lisa in the background
Okay,
there.
yeah, Lisa, I didn't
That's
see you
tough.
there. You can chime anytime you want to.
Like, go ahead, Mike. I have
Yeah,
comment
no,
on that.
and I'll tell you, I'm very blessed because Lisa, my wife, speaks Spanish, and that predominantly that's what we have here. They kind of flock to our industry, but it takes about 5 or 6 going through to get one that will stick for a while. It's a hot business. The pay is not crazy, and it's demanding. So it's not one of those places where people just fall in love with the job. We have to do a lot of rear kissing, if you can imagine what I mean, to get people to stay here and be happy. Lisa?
So maybe it's not worth shooting ourselves over if we sign up 6 or 7 or 8 people and only 1 or 2 actually do anything here. That would be kind of the norm in the society today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the problem is, Todd, is we got to pay them regardless. We've got to pay them by law, even if they're horrible. They just do exactly what we tell them not to do.
Let me give you
We
just
still
one
have to pay them.
example. Let me give you one example. This Friday coming up, Black Friday, I hear through the grapevine from Blake, because Blake's working there. He says they're not coming on Friday. They said that they're not coming, and that's it. And they have not talked to us about it. We have not given permission for anybody to be off on Friday. So apparently we're going to have a strike on Friday.
Yeah, so you got employees, and for those that don't really understand our industry, we are 1099 here. We own our own business, but the company makes everything work. They make the products, they ship the products, they deal with all the hard stuff. We have a legal team that protects us at all times. So, like, what about lawsuits in the traditional business world? Do they occur?
Well, they occur. We've been part of them before. Matter of fact, we've had several that have gone on for years and years. Even when you win, you lose. At least if you pick up, I'm running to the front.
Yep. Todd, we'll speak more about this in North Carolina, because that's one of the things that we want to talk about. Is things might knock you down in business. Things might absolutely turn your world upside down, but you never quit. You never, ever, ever quit, because there's always something better on the other side of the misery and the bad stuff that's happening. So lawsuits, yeah, we've gone through a lot of lawsuits, not necessarily against us, but us fighting for money that's owed to us because of people that we've helped in the industry. And so, like I said, I'll expand more on that in North Carolina, but we've never quit. We've always picked ourselves back up, and we just keep pushing forward and build the next door, and just try to find the good people in the world, because I know that they're out there.
I was just with a gentleman out in Denver, Colorado named Sid Huggins. And when I knew Sid the first time, he owned and ran really, really nice restaurants. And this time he was running a construction company, and his son worked for him and one other guy. And I was like, what are you doing, Sid? And he said that the restaurant industry had become impossible to make any money in. Food cost is so high, rent is so high, employees now cost so much money. But he said the last thing there, he said it was a revolving door of thieves, stealing meat and things out the back door and money out of the cash register. Bartending's pouring out extra liquor to all of their friends. He said you had to include in at least 10 to 15% cost of your business just for the stealing that goes on. And again, we're a $29.95 business, all online, so we are basically foolproof on that end. Also, tax benefits here. Like, why are we doing this? Well, I'll just tell you that when I joined the industry, I was a W-2, which means I was an employee. I was one of the people that would work for Mike and Lisa. I was not an entrepreneur. And when you're W-2, you get 0 tax breaks. Like, if you get all of your money back on your tax return, my dad taught me this. He was a CPA. He said, everybody gets all their money back. They're broke. They make no money. That's why they get their money back, because they don't even make enough to pay taxes. So if you do have a good paying W-2 job, meaning you are a doctor, a high-end nurse, a high-end employee making a Reese, a CEO of a company. Well, guys, now then you're moving into these high tax brackets, 20, 25, 30, all the way up to 38%, depending on what you're making. And you got zero ability to write off. Reese, you want to hit on that a little bit because you were one of those people that had a pretty good salary with no tax breaks, and now then you've got them.
Yeah, the first year that we did this was the first year, and I don't know how long, probably since I was in college, that I got money back on my taxes because I was able to write off. Every vacation we take, Ashley just got back from Mexico, but it was a business trip because she went down there for a personal thing. But she shared, like, she gave out samples of Renew. She talked about the business. She did the presentation. So that's a write off right there. So all these things you get to do, and the write offs that you get, there is no way. I think what is it? I don't know if you have it on this, but it's like 167 different write offs.
157, I believe, different tax write offs.
157 things. I mean, from your car, mileage on your car, the computers and stuff that you buy for your home office, part of your home office, part of your actual mortgage and your interest, and all that can be written off as part of a business, a home-based business, and it can literally offset everything that you've paid on your W-2 job. It did for me in the first year. So,
yeah, and if you don't know that, just like use your AI, either ChatGPT or Grok, and type in, please list all the tax benefits of a home-based business, and then find a CPA that's aware of them. So how do we make it all work? Well, we go find a few people to share what we are sharing right now with, a way to own their own business, a way to create time freedom, a way to build income in their life, a way to become physically better, and a way to go help other people, and really your income be dependent upon your ability to help the next person do well in life. And then you build a team of people around the world doing that. And I wish I could tell you that the percentages were different than the employees in Mike and Lisa's business. I can't. There's only a certain percentage of people here that will become leaders and do this on their own. It's just the way the world works. But when they do, in the traditional world, meaning Mike and Lisa, you guys know this. Cindy knows. Matter of fact, I'll ask y'all to chime in on this. Let me start with Cindy. Cindy, what happens with your really good business-minded realtors? What do they end up doing?
Become your competitors. You train them to then come after you. And usually they somehow leave a mess that you get sued for too. I'll just throw that in there for realtors.
So literally, you're caught in this vice as a traditional business owner all the time of the sucky employees. And Mike and Lisa, have y'all ever had a really good employee become your competition?
Well, yeah, you can go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, Todd, that's our business model. We take our employee, we teach them how to run a cleaners. We let them lease it for 2.5 years just from their work efforts, and then we let them buy it from us. So what has happened is our 2 top employees through the years have sandwiched us in between their 2 stores that we have built on the other side of us, a 5-mile radius beyond that. But so now they're our competitors, and now we're at a higher price than they are, and they're still at $250 a piece. So now we're competing with somebody that we train very well.
Yeah, we've got 2 on 5 miles either side of us. So just like Cindy said, we've created competitors that know everything about what we did. And if we give them the opportunity, they would do everything they could to put us out of business. So it's a hostile environment.
Yeah. And that was done because we had the intent of moving back to Texas and not staying here. So
yeah, so just understand that in our home-based business world, if we sign up somebody and they're really bad at this, nothing lost. Nobody owes them any money. The company doesn't owe money. You don't owe them money. Like they just weren't good or decided they didn't want to do it, whatever it might be. And then also, like our dream here is for somebody to become, Reese Antley just passed me up in the state of Florida and on the national power rankings. Like that is, I'm his biggest fan. Like Reese, go all the way to #1. So Reese, talk about that just a minute. If I worked at the shrimp company and you passed me up, I just got demoted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's one of the greatest things here that I because a good manager is like what Mike and Lisa just talked about. A good business is training people in a way that they could take your place if you're going. That is the best manager. That is what you're supposed to do. That And it does. It creates an environment of people that can surpass you. It creates an environment, especially if you're not the owner of the company, people can surpass you. And in that case, like I would, okay, now I get to be the CEO, and you drop back to the VP or get fired, one of the two, you know. But here, and that's what's great about there's no breakaway or anything. So when you say I have somebody like, you know, I passed you in the state of Florida. Hey, we know that how the power rankings all work, but hey, I'm going to celebrate that, and I'm going to send a message to Todd. I got you this week, and I was excited about that. I just need Todd money, is what I always say. But then, like that's one of the things when Chris and Joni came in, and Bob Budd and them, and they passed us. It was like we're celebrating that. We're like, please go. Hey, we'll help you. We'll help you pass us. That's not normal because we benefit from, you know, people passing us on our team. So you benefit because I passed you on that. So you're benefiting from anything that I do, anything that anybody on this call does. So
Okay, so as we get to the end here, this last 6 or 7 minutes, just understand that everybody starts for something different. But one thing that happens to anybody that sticks with this is that they will reset goals higher and bigger. They'll learn things about themselves they didn't even know when they first started. Like as a high school football coach, how would I know you could one day have a 10,000 square foot house? How could I even comprehend that? I couldn't. So my initial goals in this industry were to get out of debt and just have some cash flow. It was really simple, but it was more than enough to make me work. So these are just ideals to get out of debt, create extra cash flow. By the way, those first two things there, you know, as everybody's out in the United States shopping for Thanksgiving this week, you know, chips are now $8 a bag. They used to be 3 like 5 years ago. You know, it's like the cost of living in both Canada and the US is freaking out of control. Insurance. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I would think like one day I'm going to have a Lamborghini. Those things are like $100,000. Well, guess what? Every good car is $100,000 now. Like the truck I drive is $85,000 for a freaking pickup truck. It's everything is crazy expensive in today's world. And if you have multiple kids, now you got AAU basketball, football, hockey. Like there's a million things costing money all the time. That doesn't include your house. It doesn't include a second car. It doesn't include going out to eat, money to do things that you want to. I think I'm a family of 6, and like for 6 people to go out and eat at a decent restaurant at the beach is a couple $100. Like it's 200 something like that for a high school football coach. That's 3 days or 4 days worth of work to eat one freaking meal, which means you don't get to do it. Social life and then retirement is the one thing that's really elusive. Like our grandparents, a lot of times they had factories and companies you could go put 30 years in. Obviously, even for a lot of them, it became a fraud as a lot of them did not get it. Some did. That was the only good thing about being a school teacher or being a government worker as I was, is there was going to be a true retirement. The problem is I was going to retire at 70% of broke, which meant I would have never been able to enjoy life. And so no reason for this other than that was my starting point, and that was my finish point in the network marketing industry. And okay, so I put this slide up. I wasn't going to talk about any what to do today, but I do want this on your mind because this takes us. And by the way, I see that that is a misspelled word. I did that very quickly this morning. But as we get to next Monday's training, we're going to revisit next Monday the 10-minute presentation. It could be 15, it could be 18, it could be 7, because you've got to get to know a person. You've got to adapt to who you're talking to, but you do need an 8, 10, 12-page PowerPoint, whether that's a skinny drop conversion PowerPoint or a business PowerPoint that you can master and that you can either verbally or physically show a person. Sometimes people would rather just do a 3-way call. Sometimes they want to Zoom. Sometimes they want to meet at a coffee shop. Sometimes a kitchen table. Sometimes a living room. But here's what I know. and this has never lied to me in all the years I've been in the industry. The people that are helping their organization do 5 presentations a week are going to over time build a pretty nice residual part-time income. And over time, as your team gets bigger and as your skill set gets better, the key there is your skill set must get better. Like if you're not somebody that can, that at a very high percentage, can help get people off the fence and get them in somebody else's business, if you can't answer the hard questions, if you're too long-winded, if you go down rabbit holes, all the things that kind of mess us up out here. So like you got to get your skill set better over time and then give your team to grow. You're going to be getting calls and you're going to move that 5 presentations a week to 5 presentations a day. And it doesn't have to be 5 separate ones. It could be 3 people that were brought by people onto a Zoom. So you got 3 people at one time. Matter of fact, I had a Zoom on one day last week, and I was with Sarah. I was out of pocket, and Reese stood in for me on one of those Zooms. And Reese stood in. It was just a 2-on-1 Zoom. Signed him up. But that was one of my 5, and Reese did it. Reese, you were one of those people that literally got on every Zoom I did there for a period of time. And it was funny because I would watch you do a Zoom and I was critiquing myself because you were literally saying the same words. I was like, oh, it's a little too long there. It's a little that. But you're saying the same thing I did, but you can't hear yourself. So I actually got better by watching you recreate what I was doing. But talk about how you went from this part-time effort to your full-time effort today.
Yeah, just on that piece was just that's just who I am in that sense. But I think that's something everybody, it's one of those things when you practice, when you watch other people, you want to emulate the people that are successful, the people that you want to be like. Every one of us, every one of us are mentors to other people, but we're also the mentoree, I guess you would say. We're being the one mentored. But so for me, it's like I'm finding out who's the one that are making the money, who are the ones that are the most successful. That's who I want to emulate, and doing it in a way that one is going to give glory to God first. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be, and so I was on every call and making that because I knew that's what I had to do to get better, and then taking that out. And now, even now, a couple of years down, like you said, I still go back and go watch other people's Zooms. I get on Cindy Landis. I watch her recording. I listen to John Oakey and them people that really bring something, and then just taking that and putting it in and shortening it up to what it is, my style. But hey, if it's not broke, I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm going to just try to make money with it.
Well, guys, that's going to conclude today's training. Brenda, I see you hopped on. Steph, I see you're here. A couple of the moderators that are always with us. Anything y'all want to add on there? Anybody wants to add something in? We've got maybe 2 or 3 minutes to get to the hour mark, 5 minutes to get to the hour mark. If y'all want to add anything to that have been in the industry a little while. Brenda, you said something that was just so powerful to me in Colorado. You said that you found, because you were a bookkeeper, your husband was a government worker that had never made more than 60,000. He was a school teacher like me. But you found when you first entered the industry, it was a way to compress time, and you ended up making $1 million in network marketing.
Absolutely, Todd. And I'll say it every time I get a chance to speak. This industry is an industry of compression. You can do more here in 2 years than most Americans can do in 20 plus years in corporate America. And something resonated, Todd, when you were talking about retirement. We retired. And for those of you who don't know, my husband was a school teacher for 31 years. He's short a dissertation, having his PhD. And the most he ever made at the same school after 31 years was $59,000 a year. Me, I had an accounting background and I was an office manager. 36,000 was all I had ever made. I didn't have a piece of paper or a retirement. But when we retired in 2006 and moved to our home in Fredericksburg, Texas, after being in this industry, we've been in this industry for 5 years. And so it took a long time to learn. I was new. And so when Todd says, give it some time, and Reese said, give it some time, give it 2 years. Give yourself 2 years. Commit to doing this. Commit to the system of growth and watch what will happen. But the funniest part was, you said retirement is a facade. It really is, because we all grew up thinking, and I'm 70, so, it was back in the old days whenever you retired after 30 years with a gold watch and a pension. Y'all, it's not like that anymore. When we retired debt free because that was Larry's goal. And we were going to retire on 75% of what his last 3 years was. That's a drop program when you are in the education system. Y'all do the math. It's not very much. When we retired, after being there a full year, in January, it was $13,000 right out of the gate in taxes, in insurance, and all that. So retirement is not what you think. You are not home free. You still have to drive a car, and it requires gas and insurance. You still have to go to the grocery store. You will still have to pay insurance on your house. I could sit here and name things that you're going to have for the rest of your life. Retirement, you better have a plan B because it's not what you think. Am I right, Mr. Harry? Retirement is not what you think, and you better be prepared. And that's why I love this industry, because when you will learn what it takes to do this business, it is not work. When you do what you love, you will never have to go to work. This is about helping people get where you are or get them where they want to be. And that's why I love this industry. Y'all, it is about community, and that's what people need. We need encouragement. We are lifelong learners. We need something that will keep us in the game. You're not going to retire and sit home and look at four walls. That is not life. You will die. And so I love this industry, and I love all of you because you inspire me to get out of bed every day and meet more people and do what I love. And that is breathe life into a dark world. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
Todd, I want to add something quickly. I was explaining to our kids recently, and this is the beauty of how our company has structured this. I plan on outliving my death benefit life insurance policy. If you're lucky enough to have a term or something where there's a finite amount of time and you think you're going to gift your kids when you leave the planet and their dad's going to gift it, we want to outlive. We can then pass on as an annuity to our children our business here. So I just want to remind people it is so worth playing the long game because you want to outlive your life insurance policy and gift them this. That's it.
Yeah, and I'll conclude because I see Tanya Kelsey's here in Oklahoma City. Her husband runs the cattle association there in Oklahoma. Again, a government worker, a good living, but not a rich living. But Tanya's been with us now a couple of years. She's kind of in an area all by herself, but she had a lady that came to our event in Omaha that was really fired up and going. And Tanya just sent a text, and it was something along she's had like 3 grandbabies during this time frame, a lot of life going on, but she's just steady. But she just sent a text, said, I may not be moving fast, but I promise you one thing, the Kelseys don't quit. And that's the motto to live by. Like, play the long game here. Give your business time to compound. If life throws you a curveball, deal with it and get back on track. Everybody be blessed and have a great rest of the Monday and a great day tomorrow, starting at noon Mountain Time, kicking off Black Friday.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Thank you. Bless you.